Welcome to Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis. Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Willis. Actually, I'm Cryptoconnie today, and this is Bitshares Now. We have the Godfather of Bitshares, Stan Larimer. I said it right, right?
You got it right?
I got it, yes. I don't know why that's such a problem with me. But anyway, he is the Godfather of Bitshares, and that's what we're going to focus on here with Bitshares Now. So, Stan, we've met you already in our first video before a live show. So now I want to get into the meat of some of these questions again and really focus in on them. First of all, and this is a little away from Bitshares, but I think it helps people. What is a Bitcoin? And do I want a Bitcoin? Should I even think about a Bitcoin? And how do I go about that?
Okay, well, a Bitcoin is a type of digital currency that's got something special about it, which is you can send it directly to somebody else on the planet without a middleman. And that was why they invented Bitcoin, is to get the banks and other people who want to charge extra money or interfere with your ability to interact with someone on the other side of the planet, either through extra rules that might not be necessary or other middleman problems that you might imagine happen from time to time. So Bitcoin was simply a way that allows people to interact and exchange value from one side of the planet to the other with nobody in the middle.
Well, this thing's going gigantic. I mean, did anybody think this was going to happen? I know people that still say it's not real.
Well, but it is definitely real. When Satoshi Nakamoto suggested...
Say that 3 times real fast, Stan.
Yeah, you have trouble with Larimer. Try
I know, right.
Nakamoto. But, yeah, he created this way to keep track of who owned these things called tokens, which had no value whatsoever, but he suggested, hey guys, this technology could be used for money. And then some people came along and took that little suggestion and said, well, if this is ever used for money, I want some. And so they might buy up 1 million Bitcoins for a penny or whatever early on. When they did that, that sort of set a price in the marketplace, and other people who wanted to get them had to pay 2 pennies. And after a little while, it started to get a little bit of competition because there's a fixed number of Bitcoins out there. And so when you get more demand and a fixed supply, the price tends to go up. At some point, someone said, hey, I can send money to the other side of the planet by simply buying up a bunch of these little tokens and sending them to somebody. They can cash them back in, and I just transferred value. And once people discovered that, there was a new kind of demand, not just speculative, but real utility, because it did a function that people found they needed. And so that took Bitcoin from pennies to dollars to now thousands of dollars in value. And that's because there's increasing demand and a fixed supply.
When you say there's a fixed supply, do we know what that is? Can we find out what that is? Do we know that number?
Right. The total number there can ever be is 21 million Bitcoins. And right now, I think there's something like 16 million of them that have been released. And every 10 minutes, a few more get put into circulation. And that can go on for 100 years before they're all out there, because over time it slows down how fast they get distributed.
What determines the distribution?
There's built right into the software is a set of rules and a specific equation that says how many are issued for each block. And every few years they cut the number that you can get in half, so that you take a long time before you actually get them all into distribution. But right now, there's just a small number. I think it's 12 and a half that you put in for every block, every 10 minutes. Another 12 and a half Bitcoins are born.
They're born. They got little names, and you can adopt some if you want. So once they're all sold, they're all released, then what? Is that a good thing or not?
Well, it's something that's a long way away, but at someday there will have to be fees charged for the people who run the network. Right now, they win this little lottery every 10 minutes where they get some Bitcoins for having played the game of producing them. But once we get to the point far down the road when no more are being produced that way, they'll have to make it up by charging fees. And even today, they're charging extra fees to go to the head of the line, I usually have to pay somewhere around $4 just to get my Bitcoins to go somewhere in a hurry. When I fail to do that and just pay the default, sometimes if the network's busy, it could take a good part of a day. So while Bitcoin is going to be like the gold standard for a long time, it's not necessarily the most efficient way to send money somewhere. There's better solutions out there right now, like Bitshares, that can do that in 3 seconds for less than a penny. So, Bitcoin will have its place because most cryptocurrencies are priced in terms of Bitcoin. It's like the reserve currency for everything. But just like you don't get gold out of the vault and ship it around in an armored truck very often, it'll come to the time where you're not going to ship Bitcoin around very often either. When you need to settle, you can do so, but most of the time you'll use a faster, more efficient currency.
Well, I did notice that when you buy Bitcoin, you can buy it from different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's strange to me. Why are there different places? And you got to be careful about that. I mean, do you need to research the place you're buying it from because they may go out and then you're stuck, or what? How does that work?
Yes, that's a very important thing to consider. Now, there are a lot of exchanges out there. Some of them are heavily used and some are just getting started. And the only way an exchange has any Bitcoins to trade is if people send their Bitcoins to them. Now, when I deal with what we call a centralized exchange, and I send them my Bitcoin, guess what? They're not my Bitcoins anymore. Okay, the exchange has the keys to those Bitcoins. They give me an IOU that says, hey, if you ever want them back, cash in this IOU, and we'll send you your Bitcoins back. And that works pretty good. A lot of people just say, great, I'm happy to trade IOUs on a centralized exchange until that exchange gets into trouble, like happened with Mt. Gox. And quite a few exchanges have got hacked and lost some of the Bitcoins that they were keeping for people. And now there's a real problem because they still have all those IOUs and they lost the Bitcoins to back them. A big exchange can afford to make up for a small loss by just taking their profits and buying off the market more Bitcoin to give back to the people and take the loss themselves. But smaller exchanges or less reputable exchanges may wind up closing or, heaven forbid, run off with the things that have been entrusted to them by their customers, leaving the customers holding the bag. That's why we recommend a decentralized exchange like Bitshares, because there's no middleman out there that can be hacked. You still have the keys while they're trading. So you don't give somebody else your Bitshares. You still have them up until the 3-second period where you swap them for something else on the exchange. And so that was one of the big innovations of Bitshares, as being the DEX, the decentralized exchange, the one that can't be hacked.
But there's a difference between Bitshares and Bitcoins.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a difference. There's probably 2,000 different coins out there. A lot of them early on were just copies of Bitcoin with a different name. And, people said, wow, Bitcoin went up that much, and look at all the money people made. Why don't I create a copy of it called, say, Litecoin? Or why don't I make a copy of it called Dogecoin, which picture of a little dog on the front of it. There were all kinds of things that had no technical difference worth mentioning, other than somebody had some other meme or rationale for why to create it. And that's okay. You can form a community around permaculture enthusiasts or around people who want to colonize Mars, and they all have their own coin, and it trades and it has some kind of value. But in general, the second wave of technology, which we call Bitcoin 2.0 back in 2013, was a series of new uses or new technologies for the blockchain that improved somehow. And Bitshares came out of that class of people who said, we're going to start making coins that are better in significant ways, either technology or functionality in terms of what they did, what services they provided.
Well, just one last question on this. If you are into the BitShares, you got to be careful about who you buy them from, for sure. Because I saw like Open.Bitcoin, just different things I saw. I didn't know what it meant, so that makes sense to that. So be careful about that. But do I need to worry about the IRS and taxes and stuff like that when it comes to this, or are we, away from all that kind of stuff?
No, you have to worry about taxes. The IRS has
Ooh, I thought this took that away.
I think they've just hired an entire new division called their blockchain division.
Sure.
That is going to be specialized in learning how to automate the auditing of blockchain stuff. And the important thing to remember is that while you can create an address with a brand new wallet that's not connected to you in any way, as soon as you send it to somebody else or receive from somebody else, the IRS knows who you sent or received it to, and they can go investigate that person. And sooner or later, it'll land on somebody they know, and then they can trace it back. And if they have to, they can go to your friend or the business that you dealt with and say, who was the person that sent you this particular transaction?
Right.
And they will know that it was you, and if you didn't report it, then obviously you're going to have the same problem as someone who did a cash transaction under the table and get caught at it. So you can try, but you better know what you're doing.
No, I'm glad to hear that, because I know a lot of people think that that's the case, and I'd rather them know that's not the case so that they can work on this. Well, I noticed that a lot of things you said lead back to BitShares, so we're going to talk about that another day. So everybody, you've been watching Blue Rock Talks, a new playlist called Cryptoconnie. I'm Connie Willis, and this particular segment is called BitShares. If you liked it, please put give me a little like there. Comment below if you have any comments or questions, and also please share this with your friends. Let's all get rich, folks. Come on, let's have some fun. Play a little game, have a little strategy with some cryptocurrency out there. And also, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. So thank you very much, Stan. We will see you again soon here on BitShares Now. Is that cool with you?
Thank you very much, Connie.
You going to be there with us?
Oh, you got it.
Give me a little blue rocker, baby. All right.